What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our college basketball top 25 rankings. It's week 6 already in the season, and we already have a lot of teams that have fallen out that were in the preseason rankings. And that means a lot of new teams that entered that weren't even thought of being ranked at all this year or just missed the cut. But we're going to get right into the video here. And as you can see, we only have 2 teams dropping from the rankings in the Wisconsin Badgers and Florida Gators. And Ty, I'm gonna let you talk about the Florida Gators here.
Well, Texas Southern didn't have a win and went in there and dominated Florida, but I do want to say, as a Michigan fan, Michigan played them in a tournament last year. That team had a lot of heart, and if you look at their schedule, they've played 7 good teams, but still a terrible loss for Florida. And then they followed it up with a loss to Maryland yesterday. So rough week for them, and I think they're kind of coming back down to earth because I was not high on them to start the season.
And Wisconsin, tough loss against Ohio State. Really good game. Just unfortunately it didn't go their way in the end. But I expect them to get back on track here. And it's the Big Ten. It's really competitive this year, so they could be right back in the top 25. As soon as next week. And that brings us to others that just missed out on the cut. We have that same Wisconsin team. And Texas Tech is a team to watch very closely as they were our first team out of the top 25. But Providence as well, Oklahoma after a huge win last week, West Virginia, same thing, and even Creighton. All these teams had a very deserving case to be ranked this week, but unfortunately just missed out on the cut. And I'll start here with the Xavier Musketeers. We're ranked in our rankings once this year, fell out. They've been consistent since that one loss. 2 wins last week against Ball State and Cincinnati. 2 more home games this week against Morehead State and Marquette. And that Marquette game, it's a Big East game, conference game. And I'm still high on that Marquette team with Shaka Smart. I expect that to be a good game, and I think Xavier, has the edge just because it is a home game. But this team has been really, shocking a lot of people, playing well. Not the same team, that reached the championship 5-6 years ago. But this Xavier team, definitely a team that could run the table and win the Big East.
All right, Colorado State is a team that's really been flying under the radar, but if you look at why this team is good, just look at their senior leadership. This team basically had every player come back from last year. I watched their game Saturday against Mississippi State at the end there, where they came back, and the leadership just shows on this team. They were down, I think, 10 points, about 5 minutes to go, and just came back and really ran away with it at the end. This team just they never falter. They have a lot of experience on the roster, and this team could win close to 30 games playing in the Mountain West. Not a ton of competition in that conference. So I look for them to be, probably a 6 seed, maybe even higher in the tournament.
And coming in at 23rd, we got the North Carolina Tar Heels. A pretty convincing win last week against Elon. Another cupcake game against Furman. They are 7-3 tonight or tomorrow, but I expect them to win that. And actually, it's not at UCLA. It's the CBS Sports Classic. So it will be a neutral site game. But tough environment. Both these teams are going to travel well. Obviously, it's on the West Coast, so it favors UCLA. And it's going to come down to, who wants it more. Because we know Love for the UNC, he's their leading scorer right now, almost averaging 17 a game. He's been balling out. And then Baycott on the boards. It's going to come down to those two. And I think Baycott is going to have to step up scoring-wise if this UCLA team wants to, win it all, because they don't really have a big man like Baycott. They're kind of guard-heavy and forward-heavy. But, UNC, a big win against, if they can pull it off, it could be a top 15 team come next week.
All right, Kentucky takes a big fall, rightfully so, after a loss to Notre Dame, who has just been very poor, to say the least, this year. I think they were 3-4 going into that game. So that's what I worried about with Kentucky. They played Duke their first game, and then they play nobody, and now you get Notre Dame and Ohio State. So really, they've played two teams with a pulse all year, and they've lost to both of them. So it's hard to put this team higher. The only reason they are ranked is because of the talent that they have on the roster. So if they can beat Ohio State this weekend, that'll definitely give them a boost and kind of prove themselves as to why they're thought of so highly this year. But they have too much talent to start falling at this rate that they have been the last week. So I think they'll get back on track, and that should be a good game, Kentucky, Ohio State.
And another team that fell pretty hard, Arkansas, who had a 22-point road loss to Oklahoma, who a team, that's now just getting recognition because of that win against Arkansas. And, it's a pretty ugly game. To recap, they just didn't play well. Normal team, the normal Arkansas team doesn't give up 88 points in a game. So they just had an off night, and it's the first loss of the year. I really think Arkansas is going to bounce back. I got an easy cupcake game against Hofstra. And I think Arkansas and company are going to be happy if they go 9-1 every 10 games. Come March, that's 27-3 heading into March Madness. I'd be perfectly fine with that. But they're in the SEC, and that's going to be a gauntlet this year. We already saw just Kentucky got ranked and Arkansas, and there's more to come. But I think this team will be fine. If they can just go back to the game, figure some things out, Arkansas can get back up to that top 10.
All right, LSU comes in at number 20. I think this might be the most underrated team in the country just because they have a lot of talent coming back from what was another underrated team last year. And they're quietly off to a 9-0 start. Haven't played, anyone really worth writing home about, but they went to Georgia Tech this week and got a win. That's no easy win there. So I think this team's going to compete for the SEC title. I don't think they're quite there with Alabama or Auburn, but I think they're a really good team that's not getting a lot of recognition, and they're going to be a dangerous team this year because they're very athletic.
19th, we've got another SEC team, 4 in a row right there. In Tennessee, they're taking a tough hit after the loss against Texas Tech on their home court. I would say, honestly, 2 cupcake games right now. That Memphis team, at the beginning of the year, again, wants their top 10 team. Here we go. And, you were never a fan of this team. Penny Hardaway's got panic in Memphis, especially with all those top recruits coming in. But to Tennessee's credit, that 7-2, tough losses here and there, especially because the Texas Tech game was in overtime. Forgot to mention that. It really was down to the wire. And I think going into SEC play, which starts next week, I believe, for them, they got Alabama to close out that week, which will be a tough matchup. They're going to stay ranked. Unfortunately, neither of us are high on this team. We're not really believers, but so far through 6 weeks, they've really shown us that they are a pretty decent squad and deserve to be ranked.
All right, we got UConn coming in at 18. This team could very well be 11-0. They took the tough loss to Michigan State where they had a player out. I forget his name, but collapsed the day before. So could have won that game. And then a tough loss to West Virginia that came right down the wire. So this team has been really good this year and really surprised me. I wasn't super high on them. I thought they were a little overrated, but that St. Bonaventure win is no joke. That's a good win against a good basketball team, even though they were without their best player. But Providence this week, that's going to be a good game. 2 good basketball teams. I look for UConn to win that game, though, and get to 10-2 and keep rising.
And at number 17, we got Texas, who kind of just fell flat at the end of the game against Seton Hall. It was a really good game to watch on TV, but unfortunately, this Texas team couldn't pull it off. I expect them to bounce back. 2 easy games yet again for this Texas team. And I think, Chris Beard's starting to slowly get this team going in the right direction. The defense has picked up every week, creating more turnovers. And, once again, we got a Big 12 team here and another great conference that's going to have great basketball this year. And I think what's really going to come down for Texas this year is how I believe it's Timmy Allen, how he's going to play, because he has been the guy this year. Senior, he's just kind of taking that senior role under his wing and taking it right under his wing. And you need a guy like that, especially with a new coach. And his success will determine how Texas, finishes this year.
All right, we got Ohio State at 16, and the basketball team has handled themselves much better than their fans on Twitter. But a good win this week over Wisconsin, where it was a close game until about 5-6 minutes left in the game, and Ohio State really just took that game over. EJ Liddell has proved why he was thought of so highly at the start of the season. He's just a shot maker. He's not the most athletic guy in the building, never will be, but he just makes shots. You can have a hand right in his face. It doesn't matter who you put on him. He's just going to make shots and score his 20 points whenever he wants to. So playing Kentucky this week, I actually give Ohio State a little bit of the edge right now. I might feel different in a few days, but I think Ohio State can win that game. I think they match up well with Kentucky, and EJ Liddell and then Kyle Young, the senior, has proved to really take big steps this year. So this team is right back where they were supposed to be at the start of the year, which is towards the top of the Big Ten.
Coming in at 15th, we got the Seton Hall Pirates, who pulled off a big win against Texas last week. And another, you could say, under the weather win against Rutgers, who, just dethroned #1 Purdue last week. And it was their next game after that, dethroning. And they really dominated that game yesterday. Beat them by 14, thanks in part to, just being able to keep scoring, where in the first half they got off, they were leading by 10. Then in the second half, Rutgers, played their basketball, did their thing, and they didn't really go on a run. And that's why I think that I credit the Seton Hall team to not letting them have a chance to come back was a big reason why they won this game. And that's why they're moving up 6 spots here as well. They got a tough team in Ionia this week with Rick Pitino at the helm. But it's at home. I don't really expect them to pull off the upset, even though they have once this year against Alabama. But credit Seton Hall for kind of really slowly coming out of nowhere this year and, having a top 15 ranking.
Jeez, I get Ohio State and Michigan State, but we got Michigan State here at number 14. And, this team has proved that despite their bad season last year, they have all the pieces this year. The point guard position is no longer a question. Tyson Walker, to me, has looked like the answer for them at point guard. And the centers have really picked it up, especially Marcus Bingham. So this team is really well-rounded. The only weakness I would say they have is they don't have that go-to guy. In the past, they've had Aaron Henry, then Cassius Winston. This year, I'm not sure they really have that guy, but obviously it hasn't hurt them too much yet. They're up to a 9-2 start, 2-0 start in the Big Ten. So this team, I think, is probably top 3 in the Big Ten. And I think they're going to compete with Purdue now that Purdue isn't exactly the dominant team we thought they were.
In 13th, we got Auburn, who just keep on winning. And, they got hit this week with, 4-year ban, but it's not a postseason ban. So I don't understand what the point even that is. Their coach gets suspended 2 games. Bruce Pearl's out 2 games, already won 1 game without him, and another cupcake game, which they probably don't even really need him for. So great suspension, NCAA. You really did your job. Got a 13th ranking, and to their credit, a team yet again that just proves every year they're a top 25 team. It always seems like they come into the year, no one really talks about them because it's Auburn, most of the time they're a football school. Well, it seems every year they're always top 20, top 15 come March. and it's March Madness time, and they're always around 4 or 5 seeds. They made that run a few years back, and they're starting to look like a team that could make another run. That SEC is wide open as well. I think this is the 5th team we've ranked, 5th or 6th, and Alabama still has to come too. So this SEC, it's all going to come down to who can actually compete with the big dogs every game. And Auburn so far has me to believe that they can do that, and they just keep on winning.
All right, we got Houston here at number 12, who very well could have beat Alabama in what I thought was possibly the best basketball game we've seen this year. There's been some good ones, but that game just went back and forth the whole game. It looked like no team really could get ahead by more than 5 points. And I think that was just a matchup of 2 really great teams. As you'll see, we have Alabama ranked pretty high, but I'm really high on this Houston team despite their loss. They went in on the road and were right in it till the end, lost on a controversial call that could have went either way. But Marcus Sasser showed me a lot. This guy can just pull up from anywhere. You need a bucket, that's the guy they can go to, and that really helps when you have a guy like that. And then Jawan Roberts, if you watch that game, that guy just came out of nowhere. I think he had 9 or 10 offensive rebounds. So
Yeah, he had 10. He had at least
10 offensive rebounds. So this team can rebound the ball and they can shoot the ball. So that's scary. They play defense. This is going to be a top 10 team pretty soon, and they'll stay there.
And on your point, that offensive rebounds, it wasn't just him even. Towards the end of the game, it felt like just Houston, they throw up a shot and they at least get another chance. And that's why I think Houston, kind of deserved to win this game more, because they played a lot better than Alabama did. But unfortunately, the ball didn't go their way, and here they are sitting at 12 still. But at 11th, we got USC, who is the second most surprising team so far this year. Everyone thought, oh, Evan Mobley, he's gone. Well, this team is, going to hit the back burners a little bit here. Well, Isaiah Mobley, his brother, said, hold up there. I'm going to take the team under my arms. We're going to win some games and pretty much show the country that we are a good team. And through 10 games, 10-0, beat my school in Florida Gulf Coast, 2 more, cupcake games, you could say, to get probably to 12-0 heading into Pac-12 play. And UCLA, USC, it always seems like it's a football rivalry. Well, this year it's definitely going to be a huge basketball rivalry. And back on to Mobley, he's averaging pretty much double-double every night with rebounds and points. And I don't see anyone slowing him down, and potentially being a first-round pick as well, just like his brother.
All right, well, you said USC is the second most surprising team. We definitely have the most surprising team right here in Iowa State, who, I keep trying to pick against them. Maybe I'm just dumb, but it seems like every cupcake game they have is so ugly, and that was no different this week. Obviously, they destroyed Iowa, proved themselves in that game. Then they beat Jackson State. I think it was 47-37. So
a very ugly game. Very ugly.
That's why it's hard for me to rank this team so high. But I mean, they prove it when they play good teams. They beat them all. So I mean, 10-0 speaks for itself. They just destroyed their rivals, who I thought was a pretty good team. So they should get a win this week. They should be 11-0. And, if they can keep winning these big games, they'll compete in the Big 12, despite, I don't know where they were picked, but it had to be at the pretty close to the very bottom.
It was the
very bottom. So they were picked 10th in the Big 12. We have them ranked 10th. So they're the biggest surprise for sure.
And at 9th, you could also say you have the biggest disappointment. I don't know if that's, it may be a reach, but all 3 of those losses have come to top 10 teams for that Villanova. And unfortunately, they just can't win the big game so far this year. I don't think there's really any panic here, though. They're still a really solid team. They beat Syracuse at Syracuse last Tuesday. And Jay Wright and company, he's going to get them, back to March Madness, where they'll probably be a 1 seed somehow. And It's the Big East is still running through Villanova. Like you can't tell me there isn't. I know there's lots of competitors this year to really give them a run for their money. And yeah, they may lose a few here and there, but at the end of the day, Villanova is probably the most complete team in the Big East because we know what we're going to get out of them, and they come in and show you that they can still do that no matter how talented you are, forwards, centers, guards, whatever. They'll get it done some way. That's why it's just kind of hard for them to not be in the top 10 here. I know that you're thinking with 3 losses, yeah, maybe not a top 10 team, but once again, all those losses are to top 10 teams.
We got Arizona here at 8, and I think they definitely can prove themselves and move up into the top 5 because this is a really good team. We obviously, as Michigan fans, saw them destroy Michigan out in Las Vegas. We wondered if that was more Michigan just being bad, but they proved themselves this weekend going into Illinois, a very tough place to play against a really good team, and coming out with that win. And I thought Illinois played really well that game and still couldn't beat Arizona at home. So this team has proved that they might very well be the best team in the Pac-12, even though UCLA, who people had at number 1 to start the year, they might not be as good as Arizona. So I think Arizona is going to really be a threat not only to win the Pac-12, but maybe to make a Final Four run. Just watching them play Michigan and Illinois, they have big men, that can dominate inside, and they have shooters outside, and they have athleticism. So they have everything you really need in a basketball team.
Coming in at 7, we got Alabama, who won that great game on Saturday night against Houston. Once again, it may have been a controversial call, but they won and they were on the good side of it. In a week before that last Saturday, they beat Gonzaga, and they are trending up so much right now. They got Memphis tomorrow night at Memphis. Who we aren't high on. They're on the struggle bus right now. And I expect Alabama to keep it rolling here, win 3 straight against pretty solid teams, and pretty much put Memphis right back to the bottom of the pit. And if they can get past Jacksonville State, bearing any upset, 2 tough games the week. Next 2 weeks, they got Colorado State, who just became ranked this week, and then Tennessee as well. Both those games are at home though, so they get the benefit of the doubt early. But this 7th ranking, it feels like they just keep on winning. And if you look at their schedule beginning of the year, I would say, they at least have 2, maybe 3 losses, but they've proved to us that they can play and hang with those big guys, and that's why they're here at 7th.
All right, we got Kansas here at number 6. I think it's been kind of a quiet season lately for them after their loss to Dayton that, kind of dropped them a while, but they dominated Saturday against, not a great Missouri team, but they ran them right out of the building fast. So I think this team is getting right back on track. They have tons of talent all over the roster and possibly the best guards in the country, team-wise. They have Ochai Agbaji and Remy Martin, 2 great guards. So that's really dangerous come March. I still think they're the 2nd best team in the Big 12. They're not quite up there with Baylor, but they have tons of athleticism, and overall they're just a really great team who's going to be in the top 5 basically all year.
And at 5, we got the UCLA Bruins, who big win at Marquette on the road. For some reason, I believe it got pushed back during the day. I'm not really sure why there. Do you know why there?
I think UCLA had issues flying out of Los Angeles somehow.
All right. Well, either way, they swerved around whatever issue they had and got the victory still. And now they got Alabama State and UNC in Vegas. And I expect 2 more wins here, but that UNC team could give them a challenge. We have them ranked this week at 23, and you could say it's a ranked matchup for us. AP disagrees, but 5th, right where they should be. I believe they were 4th, 3rd, something like that coming into the year. and they're still on course for that fourth, third ranking at the end of the year. But something worth noting is Thursday, December 30th, Arizona, UCLA. It's already happening. It's a big game early in the season and Pac-12. It's definitely gonna have implications going down the road in February and early March as well for the tournament. But definitely a game to look out for coming up in the next few weeks.
All right, we got Gonzaga at 4. Honestly, I never thought this team would move from 1 when you saw them play Texas and UCLA. I
Mhm.
thought they were the best team, and I didn't think it was close. But now they have 2 losses. Obviously, the Duke game could have went either way, but the Alabama game, they really got dominated, really, really humbled in that game. And Texas Tech this week, that's going to be a tough game. Texas Tech, throws a lot of defense at you to kind of, neutralize that Gonzaga offense that's, usually dominant. So if they can get through that game, they maybe lose one more game before March, but I think they go undefeated in the West Coast. So I think this might be their last chance to lose a game before the tournament. They're still a great team. They're not quite the overwhelming best team in the country that we thought they were.
At 3, we got Duke, who didn't play at all last week. And now they get 3 more easy cupcake games yet again because it's Duke. Got to look good going in the ACC. And Paolo Banchero, that's all you need to know for this Duke team. He had a little trip up early in the season, but looks like the NCAA doesn't care about that kind of stuff. And this Duke team, Coach K's last year, I mean, wouldn't it be great if they won it all? No, because I hate when Duke wins it all. But for Coach K's sake, you got to love the guy. And it would be cool if he went out that way. And how it's going right now, that ACC is really Duke's to lose. So far, that's been the most disappointing conference. Um, Coming into this year, we were thinking, oh, Duke, UNC, Florida State, all these teams, they're gonna be pretty solid. Virginia, even, they may make a run. Well, it's Duke and Duke's conference only. Especially with Coach K, back to Coach K at his last year, they're gonna play 150% every night because they know that they're getting their coaching out of Coach K. And I really just don't see how this Duke team even gets upset moving forward in that ACC. Notre Dame, they played really well against Kentucky, but that could just that's probably a one-time thing. In all honesty, they are at home. They knew it was a big game for them, and I think Duke potentially goes into the conference tournament at least, whatever in one. I really can't see this team losing. What was it? The first game they lost, I believe, or
Uh, Ohio State.
oh, Ohio State. That's right. When they were ranked number 1, they actually lost. And of course, just don't be number 1 this year, pretty much. Um, Duke at third, I think it's fair for them. And I think they're going to only go up from here.
All right, we got Purdue at number 2 now after an interesting week. So basically, they followed the trend set before them this year, where one team sets themselves apart, looks like the clear-cut best team in the country, and then they're not all of a sudden. So, Purdue 1-1 last week. I thought they should have beat Rutgers, obviously lost on a half quarter, and I thought they should have lost to NC State in a game where they just played poorly for, I don't know, 36, 37 minutes. So this team definitely got humbled after their first ever number 1 ranking. So they have some thinking to do. They got to go back to the drawing board. The NC State game, I thought they played terrible. If you watch the first half, especially, could not shoot, turn the ball over on offense. The Rutgers game, they played okay, but that Rutgers offense is not great, and they gave up 80 points to them. So,
Mhm.
definitely a humbling week, but I think this team will get back on track. Butler is not what they were supposed to be, so I think they should easily win that game and get to 10-1. And in the Big Ten, I think they're still the best team. the clear-cut best team in that conference, but it's not going to be a runaway like we thought it was, especially because they started 1-1.
And at number 1, we got the Baylor Bears, got their first number 1 ranking of the year. So, you know what that means? They're going to lose this week against Oregon. You know, Oregon is a team that really kind of fell off early. This team was ranked, I believe, preseason top 10. Really highly thought of team. It's definitely going to be their probably biggest game of the year. You know, at the time, got number 1 coming into your place. And they're coming off of a huge win against Villanova, blew them out, held them to 36 points, I believe. Uncommon for Villanova and really uncommon for Baylor to hold a team to that many points. I know they have good defense, but 36 against the number 6 team in the nation is unheard of. And you would think after last year losing 3-4 key players, especially Davion Mitchell, who was the heart and soul of that Baylor Bears team last year, it doesn't matter. I think they're as good, even better than last year. You know, everyone thought, oh, what's Michael Mayer going to do? You know, he's going to have to be the guy. He's going to have to step up. Well, it's LJ Cryer, the sophomore. He's coming out of nowhere, really hitting his stride this year. It's his turn, leading the team with 14.6 a game for points. And just Baylor team, they're just having a fun time. Winning is always a great time, but it just looks like they're just not even trying it sometimes. Like, it's just too easy for them. And I think the Bears, you know, really have a good chance at repeating if they can keep playing like this. First team, and it feels like forever to even repeat. But right now, I might even take that bet after this video of Baylor repeating, just because I think that the Big 12's loaded this year. If they can win, I'd say about 4 out of every 5 games in the Big 12, because it's going to be super competitive. Baylor's got a real shot at winning it all, being a 1 seed. And put me down right now for Baylor to win it all. I think I might have to stick with that throughout the rest of the year. But we'll have to see that. You guys will have to see if my thoughts are going to change in the upcoming videos. So make sure you guys hit the like button, hit that subscribe button as well. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.